Hello students, welcome to another video of number theory. Today we are going to discuss one more theorem of number theory, that is the theorem on the solution of the congruence of the form Ax is congruent to 1 mod m. Before that we are going to discuss one more example on the previous topic, that is our previous topic was Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem and Fermat's theorem. We have taken 2 or 3 examples on that theorem, and the last example was to find the last digit in the ordinary decimal representation of 3 raised to 400. Like that, one more example is asked in the question paper. The example is, what is the remainder, what is the last digit in the ordinary decimal representation, in the ordinary decimal representation of 2 raised to 50. So our Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem states that if GCD of A and M is equals to 1, Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem is, if Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem, the statement of Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem is, if GCD of A and M is equals to 1, then A raised to phi of M is congruent to 1 mod M, and this is the Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem. Euler's generalization of Fermat's theorem, and the Fermat's theorem states us, if GCD of A and P, where P is a prime number, and GCD of A and P is equals to 1, then we can write A raised to P minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod P, where this Fermat's theorem we have proved by using Euler generalization. Similarly, in Euler generalization, putting the value of M is equals to P and phi of P is equals to P minus 1, we get the proof of Fermat's theorem. But our Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem says that if GCD of A and M is equals to 1, then we can use this, and Fermat's theorem states that if GCD of A and P is equals to 1, then we can write this. But in this example, we have given that we have to find the last digit in the ordinary decimal representation of 2 raised to 50. So in this example, we take M is equals to, in the expression of ordinary decimal representation, here decimal stands for 10. So we take the value of M is equals to 10, and here we have given A raised to express this number A raised to phi of M. So here A is equals to 2, and if you get the GCD, if you find the GCD of 2 and 10, we get the greatest common divisor of 2 and 10 is 2. So we cannot use the Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem and Fermat's theorem. So to prove these examples, to prove such examples or to solve such examples, we must first find the greatest common divisor of two numbers, that is A and M. If that GCD is 1, then we can use Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem or Fermat's theorem. Fermat's theorem we use when that M is prime number, then we can use the Fermat's theorem. If M is not prime, then we use Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem, but for that our GCD of A and M must be 1. So here GCD of A and M, that is 2 and 10 is 2. So we cannot use the Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem or Fermat's theorem. But to solve this example, we can clearly say that this we have to find 2 raised to 50. So we must express 2 raised to 50 is congruent to under some integer modulo 10. Then we get that integer as last digit in the ordinary decimal representation. So to express this 2 raised to 50 under modulo some integer, suppose x, under modulo 10, we have to find this number x, but we cannot use Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem or Fermat's theorem. So clearly 2, we know that 2 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. 2 is congruent to 2 modulo 10, since 2 minus 2 is 0 and 10 divides 0. Again 2 square is 4, then 4 is again congruent to 4 modulo 10, since 4 minus 4 is 0. So 10 divides 0. 2 raised to 3, that is 2 cube is 8. again 8 is congruent to 8 is congruent to 8 modulo 10. If you are not getting this, so we know that 2 is congruent to 2 modulo 10, since this 10 divides 2 minus 2, that is 2 minus 2 is 0. Similarly 2 square is congruent to 4 modulo 10, since 2 square is 4 and 4 minus 4 is 0. Again 2 cube is 8, then 2 cube is congruent to 8 modulo 10, because these all numbers 2, 4, 8 are less than 10. So remainder must be that number. So 2 cube is congruent to 8 modulo 10. Now 2 raised to 4, 2 raised to 4 is 16, that is 2 cube into 2, 2 cube is 8, 8 into 4, 8 into 2 is 16. Again 16 is congruent to 2 raised to 4 is 16 is congruent to 6 under modulo 10, since 16 minus 6 is 10. So 10 divides 10, since this 10 divides 16 minus 6. So 2 raised to 4 is congruent to 6 modulo 10. If we increase the power by 10, then we have to find the 6 raised to 10. So 6 raised to 10 is again a large number. To reduce this calculation, we will take 2 raised to 5, that is 2 raised to 5 is 32, and clearly 32 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. 2 raised to 5 is 32 and 32 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. So we will take, to find this integer, there is no need to write this step in solution. We know that, or clearly we can see that, you can write any of these two statements. 2 raised to 5 is congruent to 2 modulo 10, since 2 raised to 5 is 32 and 32 minus 2 is 30 and 10 divides 30. So 2 raised to 5 is 32, which is congruent to 2 modulo 5. So we get 2 raised to 5 is congruent to 2 modulo 10, and we are willing to find 2 raised to 50. If we take the power, if we increase the power of both sides by 10, we get 2 raised to 50, but we again have to find 2 raised to 10, and 2 raised to 10 is again a large number. Instead of increasing the power of 2 raised to 5 by 10, I will increase the power by again 5, that is 2 raised to 5 to the power 5. I will increase this power by 5. So we must increase power of 2 again by 5, increasing the power of both sides by 5. We get modulo 10. Again 2 raised to 5, and 2 raised to 5 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. So we can directly write here 2 raised to 5 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. So we get 2 raised to 5 5s are 25. So 2 raised to 25 is congruent to 2 modulo 10, and after this step we can get 2 raised to 50 as increasing the power of both sides by 2. So 2 raised to 25 to the power 2 is congruent to, again we have to increase the power of this 2 by 2 under modulo 10. So 2 raised to 25, 25 2s are 15. So 25 2s are 50. So 2 raised to 50 is congruent to 2 square is 4 under modulo 10. Hence this is the last digit, that is therefore 4 is the last digit in the ordinary decimal representation of 2 raised to 50. 4 is the last digit. 4 is the last digit in the ordinary decimal representation of ordinary decimal representation of 2 raised to 50. So if you try this example by using Fermat's theorem or Euler generalization of Fermat's theorem, then your answer is not correct, since their GCD is not 1, that is their GCD of 2 and 10 is 2. So you cannot use the Euler generalization or Fermat's theorem. So we have to prove this solution, we have to solve this example by this method. Instead of increasing the power of 5, you can increase, instead of increasing the power of 2 raised to 5 by 5, you can increase this power. There is, from this step you can directly increase. This is the OR solution. You can get the most convenient solution from here, which so if we increase the power of 2 raised to 5 by directly by 10, we get 2 raised to 5 to the power 10 is congruent to 2 raised to 10 modulo 10, and increasing power by 10 we get 2 raised to 50 is congruent to. So simplifying this again, 2 raised to 10 is 2 raised to 5 square, 5 square, that is 5 into 2 is 10. So writing this 10 in this manner, we get 2 raised to 5 to the 2 raised to 5 to the power 2 under modulo 10, and from this suppose from this equation number 1 we can write 2 raised to 5 is congruent to 2 modulo 10. So 2 raised to, instead of 2 raised to 5 we can directly write 2. So 2 square is modulo 10, and from this we get 2 raised to 50 is congruent to 4 modulo 10. You can write the convenient solution for you, which is most convenient solution. Here are two methods to solve. You can find another method by, but you have to use this congruence. Using this congruence you can find the solution in another way. So this is the solution of this example. So now comes to our main theorem of today's lecture. The theorem is, a statement of the theorem is, GCD of a and m are any two integers, and if their GCD is 1, GCD of a and m is equals to 1 if and only if the congruence ax is congruent to 1 mod m, 1 modulo m has unique solution under modulo m, unique solution modulo m. If GCD of a and m is equals to 1, GCD of a and m is equals to 1 if and only if this congruence has unique solution under modulo m, and first of all complete this statement, then I will explain the solution of the congruence. Next, if GCD of a and m is greater than 1, if the GCD of these two numbers is greater than 1, then the congruence ax is congruent to 1 modulo m, does not have any solution, This is the theorem. The theorem states that if GCD of a and m is equals to 1, then this congruence has unique solution, and if this congruence has unique solution, then we can clearly say that the GCD of a and m is equals to 1. If their GCD is greater than 1, then this congruence has no solution. First of all, the solution of the congruence means the solution of this congruence, that is ax is congruent to 1 modulo m, has solution if there exist integers x which satisfies this solution. If there exists a value of x, there exists an integer x which satisfies this solution. For example, on the rough page we will take the example. For example, suppose the GCD of 2 with 3 5, GCD of 2 with 5 is equals to 1, then this congruence, that is ax is congruent to 1 mod m, the value of m is 5. So this ax is congruent to 1 mod m has unique solution. If GCD of these two integers, then this congruence has solution, unique solution. The congruence has solution means, that is here the value of a is 2, 2x is congruent to 1 modulo 5 has solution means there are some integers with x, which satisfies this congruence. For example, if we take the value of x as 1, then 2 into 1 is congruent to 1 mod 5. Is it possible? Since 2 minus 1 is 1 and 5 doesn't divides 1, then this congruence is not true. Then we can say that x is equals to 1 is not a solution of this congruence. That is, the solution of this congruence means there are some integers, there must be some integers x which satisfies this congruence. If we take the value of x as equals to 2, then we get 2 into 2 is 4 and 4 minus 1 is 3, but 5 doesn't divide 3, so this congruence is not possible, means x is equals to 2 is not a solution of this congruence. If we take the value of x is equals to 3, then we get 2 into 3, 2 into 3 minus 2 into 3 is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5 and 5 divides 5, therefore this congruence is satisfied, that is 2 into 3 is 6 is congruent to 1 modulo 5, hence x is equals to 3 is solution of this congruence. X is equals to 3 is solution of this congruence, means we have to find the integers x which satisfies this congruence, and solution of the congruence means the integers which satisfies this congruence. Here is the solution of congruence. We say that if GCD, our theorem says that if GCD of A and M is equals to 1, then this congruence, that is AX is congruent to 1 mod M, has unique solution, that we are going to prove. And if this congruence has unique solution, then we can say that the GCD of A and M is equals to 1. And further, if GCD of A and M is greater than 1, then this congruence has no solution. If we take same example here, the GCD of A and M, if we take another example, suppose GCD of 2 and 6 is equals to 2 and GCD of 2 and 6 is equals to 2, which is greater than 1, then to find the solution, one thing must be clear, that these solutions of the congruence AX is congruent to 1 mod M. The solutions, the value of x are just from CRS. These solutions are from CRS, since we are finding the numbers which solve the congruence AX, we are finding this x which satisfies AX is congruent to 1 mod M, and we know that our M, this congruence is satisfied means M divides AX minus 1, and if we take any integer minus 1 and that M divides that integer, means these x are from the CRS modulo 1, these x are from CRS modulo M. So we are just checking the residue system and all the integers. For example, suppose for M is equals to 6, the residues are 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 5. These 6 numbers are from CRS, and to find the solution, we only check these 6 integers. This is the note after, we can write this as a note after this theorem, proof of this theorem. So if we take these 2 integers, then we are just finding if these 6 integers satisfies this congruence, then this congruence X is congruent to 1 mod M, then we say that this congruence has solution. If these 6 integers, any integer in between these 6 integers not satisfy this congruence, then we say that this congruence has no solution. And if we check the 2x is congruent to 1 modulo 6, if we check for all these 6 integers, we get that these all 6 integers does not satisfy this congruence. That is, if we take the value of x is 0, then we get 0 under modulo 6, and 6 doesn't divides minus 1. After that, for 1, then we get 2 minus 1 is 1, 6 doesn't divides 1. After putting the value of x is equals to 3, 4, 5, we get, every time we get the number which is not divided by 6. So if GCD of these 2 integers is greater than 1, then the congruence has no solution. So let's prove this theorem. In the proof, first of all, we will suppose this GCD of A and M is equals to 1, and we will prove the AX is congruent to 1 mod M has solution. After that, in converse part, we will suppose this and prove this, and after that we will show the solution is unique. So let's start the proof. Suppose that GCD of A and M is equals to 1. GCD of A and M is equals to 1, and our claim is, and we are going to prove AX is congruent to 1 mod M. AX is congruent to 1 mod M has solution. First of all, we will prove this has solution. After that, we will prove if this has solution, then GCD is 1, and after that we will prove the uniqueness of that solution. Suppose GCD of A and M is equals to 1, and our claim is this. We have just only one given thing here, which is GCD of A and M is equals to 1. So on this GCD we can use the theorem of expression of linear combination of GCD. Therefore by theorem you must write the statement of the theorem in the examination. That is, the theorem states that if G is GCD of A and B, then we can express G as linear combination of A and B for this x y belongs to Z. Using this result, here we are going to prove Ax is congruent to 1 mod m. So x is already taken, so we will use the another notation as suppose. Therefore by using theorem there exist suppose integers x naught and y naught such that a x naught plus m y naught is equals to 1. This GCD is expressed as linear combination of these two numbers. There exists integer x naught y naught such that ax naught plus my naught is equals to 1. So we will rearrange this equation as my naught is equals to 1 minus ax naught. My naught is equals to 1 minus ax naught. We have to prove that this ax is congruent to 1 mod m has solution. Therefore we must prove that m divides ax minus 1. We must prove m divides ax minus 1. So from this step we get m divides 1 minus ax, but we have to prove that this. After that we can use m divides 1 minus ax, therefore we get 1 is congruent to ax naught under modulo m, and after rearranging, instead of doing that we will rearrange this as m y naught is equals to minus times ax naught, taking minus sign common we get ax naught minus 1, and multiplying both side by minus 1 we get we get m into suppose minus of y naught is equals to ax minus 1, sorry there is a little bit mistake, ax naught minus 1. So taking this as minus y naught is equals to m y prime, we get my prime is equals to ax naught minus 1, where this minus of y naught is equals to y prime is equals to minus of y naught is again an integer. Since y naught is integer, multiplying by minus 1 to some integer we get another integer, so minus y naught is equals to y prime is an integer. So we get m into some integer is equals to ax naught minus 1. So using the definition of divisibility, therefore by definition of divisibility we can write this m divides ax naught minus 1. Since ax naught minus 1 is written in the multiplication of m, that is m into some integer is equals to ax naught minus 1. So by using definition of divisibility we can write this, and applying definition of congruence, applying the definition of congruence we can write ax naught is congruent to 1 modulo m. Ax naught is congruent to 1 modulo m. Hence there exists an integer x naught which satisfies the congruence a into x is congruent to 1 mod m, implies that x is equals to x naught is solution. X naught is solution of ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. Hence this x naught is solution. Since we have written ax naught is congruent to 1 modulo m, so these congruences look like ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. So x is equals to x naught is solution of this congruence, that is there exists this. Since this x naught is an arbitrary element, we not taken x is particular here, x naught is number integers that we have used to express this GCD in linear combination of these two numbers. So x naught is in integer, and we get that x naught satisfies our congruence ax is congruent to 1 mod m. So we say that this x is equals to x naught is solution of ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. Hence the first part is proved. Now conversely suppose that ax is congruent to, conversely we are supposing this and we are going to prove that GCD of a and m is equals to 1. Conversely, suppose that ax is congruent to 1 modulo m has solution. Suppose that solution is say x naught, or x naught is already taken. So suppose that solution is, can use x naught here since x naught is, this first part is proved. Suppose solution x1, instead of x naught we will use x1. So ax is congruent to 1 mod m has solution say x1, and our claim is that is we have to prove that we are going to prove GCD of a and m is equals to 1. GCD of a and m is equals to 1. Since this ax is congruent to 1 mod m has solution x1, so ax1 is congruent to 1 mod m. Since this is solution of this congruence, means this x1 satisfies this congruence, so ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m. Since ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m. So here we can use the definition of congruence and write it as m divides ax1 minus 1 by definition of congruence, by using the definition of congruence, So we can use the definition of divisibility here, and we can write ax1 minus 1 is equals to m into some k. Here k is an integer, and this is by using definition of divisibility, by definition of divisibility. So this k is an integer, and by using definition of divisibility we can rearrange this. We can rearrange this as ax1 minus this mk is equals to plus 1. ax1 minus mk plus 1. Rearranging this, that is putting this mk here and 1 here, we get ax1 minus mk is equals to 1. And to prove the GCD of a and m is equals to 1, we are going to express 1 as linear combination of these two numbers, that is a into ax plus my is equals to 1. Then we say that this 1 is GCD of a and m. Since expression of GCD in linear combination, if the GCD is 1, then we can use that theorem as if and only if. So rearranging this is again ax1 plus m into minus of k is equals to 1, and ax1 plus m into k prime is equals to 1, where k prime is equals to minus of k, and this again an integer. Therefore GCD of a and m, we get 1 as linear combination of a and m. So GCD of a and m is equals to 1. This is by using the theorem of linear combination of GCD, by theorem of expression of GCD in linear combination, by theorem of linear combination of GCD. One thing must be clear in your mind, that if the GCD is G, then we can express G as linear combination of these two numbers. But if we get the linear combination of G is like this, then we cannot say that GCD of these two numbers is G. So we use this theorem as if and only if whenever our GCD is 1. If GCD is not 1, then from this linear combination we cannot say that GCD is whatever it may be. So we use that theorem for if and only if condition whenever our GCD is 1. If our GCD is not 1, then we cannot this converse part of that theorem. So this thing must be clear in your mind. So from this we get GCD of a and m is equals to 1. So our converse part is proved. Now in converse part we are just reversing this, but instead of x0 we have taken the integer, we have taken the notation x1. Now the uniqueness of solution. In the uniqueness we are going to take two solutions, and if those two solutions are congruent to each other, then we say that this congruence has unique solution. Now the uniqueness of solution. No need to write star in the proof. Uniqueness of solution. Uniqueness of solution. Uniqueness. Suppose x1 and x2 are two solutions of that congruence. Suppose x1 and x2 are two solutions of the congruence ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. Ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. And we have given that GCD of A and M is equals to 1. This is given, and this congruence has solution, and we have supposed that there are two solutions. If these two solutions are congruent to each other, then we clearly say that these solutions are unique. For example, we have taken one example before starting the proof of this. We have taken this GCD of 2 and 5 is equals to 1, and Ax is congruent to 1 mod m, that is 2x is congruent to 1 mod 5 has solution x is equals to 3. If you put the value of x is equals to 4, then 4 to the 8 minus 1 is 7, and 7 is not congruent to 5. So x is equals to 3 is unique solution. If you take another solution, suppose this x1 is equals to 2 and x3 is equals to suppose 5 to the 10, then 8 to the 16 minus 1. So if we take x2 is equals to 8. So here we get 2 into 3 is congruent to 1 modulo 5. Again 2 into 8, 8 to the 16 minus 1 is 15, and 5 divides 15. So 8x is equals to 8 again satisfies this congruence. Then if we get two solutions, here there are two solutions. First is 3, second one is 8. These two solutions which satisfies this congruence. Then if we get these two are congruent, if these two are congruent to each other, then we say that the solution is unique, since this our 8 is congruent to what under modulo 5? 8 is congruent to 3 under modulo 5. So 3 is unique solution, since we can write this 8 as 3 under modulo 5. So 3 is unique solution. So we are going to prove this. If these x1 and x2 are congruent to each other, then we can say that this congruence has unique solution. Suppose x1 and x2 are two solutions of ax is congruent to 1 modulo m. That is, these two are solutions of this congruence. Then these two integers satisfies this congruence. That is, this ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, and ax2 is again congruent to 1 modulo m, since these two are these solutions. So ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, ax2 is congruent to 1 modulo m. From this we can write ax1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. ax1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. I am writing it directly, since if we get ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, and if we rearrange this by using the result that A is congruent to B mod m, then B is congruent to A mod m. So if we write this as 1 is congruent to, from this we can write, instead of writing here, I will write here. We know that here we have get ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, and ax2 is congruent to 1 modulo m. So this congruence can be written as 1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. This is by using A is congruent to B modulo m, A is congruent to B modulo m, then B is congruent to A modulo m. Using this result, I can write ax2 is congruent to 1 modulo m can be written as 1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. So here we get ax1 is congruent to 1 modulo m, and 1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. A is congruent to B mod m, B is congruent to C mod m, then A is congruent to C mod m. Using that result, I can write ax1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. So instead of doing these all calculations, I can write it as directly ax1 is congruent to ax2 modulo m. And if we get from this step we get x1 is congruent to x2 modulo m, then we are done. That we were willing to prove, that is, these two are congruent to each other. To get x1 is congruent to x2 modulo m, here this looks like ax is congruent to ay modulo m, and we have one theorem, ax is congruent to ay modulo m if and only if x is congruent to y modulo m upon GCD of a and m. Using that result, we can write x1 is congruent to x2 modulo m upon GCD of a and m. GCD of a and m. This is by using ax is congruent to ay modulo m if and only if x is congruent to y mod m upon GCD of a and m. Using this result, I have this step, and we know that GCD of a and m is given in our statement. GCD of a and m is 1. So putting the value of GCD here, we get x1 is congruent to x2 modulo m. So the next step is x1 is congruent to x2 modulo m. Since GCD of a and m is 1, so we get x1 and x2 are congruent to each other. Hence, the solutions x1 and x2 are congruent to each other. Hence, the solution of that congruence is unique. Therefore, ax is congruent to 1 mod m has unique solution. Hence, the proof of this statement. And one another statement is given here. If GCD of a and m is greater than 1, then this congruence has no solution. We have seen the example previously, that the example was if GCD of 2 and 6, we have taken this example earlier, GCD of 2 and 6 is 2, then this congruence has no solution. Clearly, if we take another GCD, suppose D, and we solve this first part, then we get, if we take GCD D, then we get this, and simplifying this, we get the congruence ax is congruent to D mod m as solution. Though so, but we have to find the congruence, solution of the congruence ax not, or ax is congruent to 1 mod m, then this ax is congruent to 1 mod m has no solution. If GCD of a and m is greater than 1, if we take suppose D which is greater than 1, then we get the solution of the congruence ax is congruent to D modulo m, not necessarily 1. Hence, there is no need to prove this statement. Hence, that's it in our theorem.